Welcome to Reliance Community Church. Our heart's desire is to help you connect with the living hope, Jesus Christ, by building a relationship with Him. The more we focus on discovering who God really is through Jesus Christ, the more we are changed. Knowing God intimately can transform your life into one of passion, joy, adventure, and peace. We hope this teaching can help you in your own personal journey. If there is anything we can do to assist you in that journey, pray for you, or encourage you, don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll tell you how to do that at the end of this teaching. We are so glad you are here with us today.
Just in life, there's a word disappointment that comes pretty strong. I wouldn't share this story if the junior high and high school were still in here. I was on my vacation, and I was with my sister and my niece and my dad, and I ran into a kid I was in kindergarten with. Yeah, we had kindergarten back in those days. And we had kindergarten all the way through grade 12, and he was in my class. And our moms are both in the same wing at the Alzheimer's home. And that was the first time I've seen him, man, since grade 12. And have you ever had moments that you wish something wasn't spoken by somebody else in front of family, because you know what they do with it? Well, he decided to tell my niece everything about me like he was my conscience. And he just went on a rampage. And he says, "Did your uncle ever tell you why he sat by the window in high school?" My dad's there too, and I'm thinking, man, I'm dead. But I've graduated. I did graduate. I got a diploma. And he said he sat by the window, so once attendance was taken, he would climb out it. And he would leave. In all my school years, I missed over 370 classes. And I graduated. But the interesting part of this is, as I was with my mom and dad, my dad, not my mom, but we were going through all these pictures. Like, it was amazing. James, it was a time warp. It had me all the way back as a baby, riding like one of those horses. Remember those horses you get on the springs, you go crazy? They have a picture of me on that, and I'm sure I did damage to that. And all the way through, and I said to my dad, I said, "Dad, you don't have a picture of my grade 12 graduation." And I don't remember my grade 12 graduation, and it's not because I was abused and I'm blocking it out. I just don't remember it. He says, "Well, I don't either." My dad was busy in politics, and so that was it. And my revelation came from when my conscience was speaking to my family. He said, "Hey, do you remember we got a letter about graduation?" I said, "No." He said, "Remember, 6 of us got a letter that said we were cordially uninvited to attend our graduation." I went to college. I have a transcript. I said, "How did it get to the point we were cordially uninvited?" And he went to talk. I said, "Be quiet." And you know, sort of from that stigma, I lived a life wishing I was more fully alive. And I've zombified my life in some cases because I don't know how to handle disappointment. I'm not proud to say how many classes I met. I'm embarrassed. I'm disappointed on the things I didn't learn. And it's a good story to laugh, and it's funny to hear I was cordially uninvited, but it's still disappointing. And every one of us in this room sit with a disappointment of where we sit and how we got here was mostly by our own choice. We're here because of our choices. So I didn't tell that story to you, Tim and Diana, to think I was funny. I'm telling you that I'm disappointed, and I live with this on what could have been. Because Vanessa, when I go to a graduation now and I see a kid on an honor roll, I was already on the principal's roll, but I wished I was on the good roll. I wished I had the 4.0, and not by adding all my grades together, but I wished I had the 4.0, but I never put effort. And some of us are stuck and not putting effort into anything anymore because we've just accepted this as life. See, I don't believe God made you to have a boring marriage. I don't believe that God made you to be a boring single. I don't believe God made you to not be healthy and successful in business. I believe God made you to flourish and blossom in life. In this series on Made for More, I want to talk about something, and I want you to turn to Luke chapter 13. And today we're going to talk about how do you deal with disappointment. And you're going to sit there and say right now, you know who needed this? Yeah, you. That's why you're here. It's easy when we go to church, you're part of the way in the sermon going, you know who needed that? Yeah. We need it because we're right here. And I need it, so I'm speaking to me. Luke chapter 13, verses 6 to 9, and it said, and he said to the vine dresser, look, for 3 years now I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and I find none. Cut it down. Why should it use up the... And he said to the vine dresser, look, for 3 years now I have come seeking fruit on this tree, and I found none. Found none. It's an interesting conversation with an owner of the property and the vine dresser. The owner of the property planted all these trees, figs, a vineyard. A vineyard, a fig represents prosperity and peace. But there's this one tree that's barren. How can it be one tree barren in an entire vineyard, and they all get the same nurturing and get all the same care, and yet this one tree for 3 years is barren? Let's deal with the word disappointed. We have expectations that are not reality, and we place them on people, and it's not fair. You hear me? That's one side of disappointment. The other side of disappointment is you have heard what you thought was a dream. You have thought this was going to be something that it's not turning out to be, and you're disappointed, and with disappointment comes disillusionment, and we start thinking. And we start thinking that we're now disqualified because of something we said or we did. See, it's very interesting. We could place disappointment on others easy. My job is never to tell you how disappointed I am in you. My job as a shepherd is to speak life to what you can be. Church should never be a controlled environment to tell you how bad you are and how you need to live. Is there anybody that can't read? You could read the word to tell you how you live. And if you're in the kingdom, it's not about what you don't listen to how bad I'm telling you you are. That's not the responsibility of the house of the Lord. The house of the Lord is to be a place of worship, encouragement, communion, fellowship, love, teaching, so that we grow into the grace and mercy of who He is. Some of us live under the shadow of disappointment. We've looked at what we thought life should be, and it's not. And we get disappointed. And normally when disappointment hits, we quit. We just stop. We just stop. We take up our toys and we leave. And we quit because I'm disappointed. I love my children. And they're not perfect. Because I'm not. But I love them. They love me. And they love God. And they worship God on their journey in their way. Tim, you can't make your boys worship God the way you do. Doug and Nance, you can't make Brandon worship God the way you do and then be disappointed in him because he's not worshiping your way. See, we have put more vinegar out than we have put honey. And we have cast disappointment on people because they don't. I came from a Pentecostal church, and they wanted you to learn the speaking in tongues. And if you didn't speak in tongues, it was almost like you weren't a part of it. Is that right? So it was just a select gift for the chosen, frozen. But what about the people that don't? We're almost, never mind. There's not 144,000 people going to heaven. Amen. But religiously, we have segregated the market for this side are those that don't, this side are those that do, and this side are just wandering. See, the disappointments that come our way cause disillusionment towards the cross. For 3 years, the owner of the vineyard went and didn't see one piece of fruit. What are you looking at that you're disappointed in, that you keep fixating on, and you're stuck? I could go down a million avenues. I could go down a million avenues. But don't be disappointed in others. Learn to celebrate them. Disappointment is not a place you want to live because everything becomes dark. Everything just gets dark. But you have to move to the other side. So let me go to the next part. I'm in the tent of disappointment. I'm also in the tent of the second group, called the disappointee, if that's a right word, where I'm actually the one that has caused disappointment. Anybody else in that group besides me? Where you know you're the disappointee. Where you failed, you say something or you do something. We know that God has placed something in us and it's just not responding. And with stuff that's cast on you or passed on to you, you're living under this stigma, but this stigma is almost oppression, where you're now the disappointee because now you're disappointing others. The owner of the vineyard spoke to the vine dresser, who was now the disappointee. He did everything right to handle that fig tree, that whole vineyard, but one tree. If you're going to take any notes, write this down as a disappointee. Some things are dead and taking up space, let them go. Some things are flat out dead and taking up space, let them go. I had a lot of things spoken over me because of my behaviors in school. I'd be called stupid. I would be called rebellious. And what would I start living like? I started to live like I was stupid. I started to live like I was rebellious. And so if I was already going to be the disappointee, I might as well go all in. Because that's all I heard you say to me. This is what I am, and this is what I was. The second thing is, you don't have to accept people's opinion to keep you where you are. How many ever had a rose bush? My wife got fixated on these things. And she planted them all in the backyard. And one day she said to me, she says, "Hon, now you go and cut them back a little bit." Well, she already knew my gardening skills, right, Sham? She knew my skills, but she just wanted to give me a second chance. I think it was the 80th. And I didn't know how far you cut these things back. This thing was in full bloom. You know what I mean, Drew? Like lemon's a good time. And so I was thinking about this thing, and I had to go get a hold of the cutters. And I would look on Al certain branches, and if I didn't see enough thorns, I didn't think they were good. So I started to cut. She got home, which was a blossoming, beautiful rose bush, to a thing this high. You know the disappointee thing? She walked outside, and you know the look you get? Husbands, how many know are relating to me? You know the look. They don't say nothing, they just look at you. I still see the look now. And she walked in, her eyes were big, and she looked at me, she says, "What did you do?" I trimmed the bushes, Susie, and I cut them down to what I thought they should be. She says, "You about killed them." And oh, man of faith I was. I said, "They'll grow." Jesus. For me, I had to learn to what cut and not cut. You have to learn what to cut out. Because you will continue to live as a disappointee, not only to others, but to yourself, because you know what you should be. Am I right? So as you're pruning rose bushes, do never call me. But know this, let those things die that should die. I'm not stupid. I'm not rebellious. I'm a child of the King. That He's invested life into me, that He gave me the power of life and death in my tongue, that He's given me authority to speak words. I may not be good with a tool belt, but I'm given the tool, which is the Word of God, and that's my craft. And that's where I live. So I can't live like I'm a disappointee because I can't change out electrical panels and do all this, but I am good with this and I can talk. And that's my gift. That's it. So what everybody else wants me to be, I can't be, but this is who I am, Barbara, and this is the best I could do. But step number 3, as a disappointee, if you were designed to grow figs, then why are you trying to produce apples and oranges? Because what we do is we look at other people's lives, we know nothing about their journey, nothing about their story, how they got there, but we see where they are, and we want to be producing like them. You weren't designed to produce like that. You were never designed to produce apples and oranges if you were designed to produce figs. So why are you trying to produce something you were never designed to be? So you're living as a disappointee within yourself and feeling like. See, I think a lot of us have to come to the place to know that Jesus picked us, even with our mess. The next part that's a little bit interesting for me is the word dysfunctional. I think the reality is everybody in this room has dysfunction somewhere in our lives. You're saying, well, that's not very positive. You're speaking about made for more. Yeah, I could be made for more through my dysfunction. But if you don't accept your dysfunction and recognize you need God's grace and mercy. See, I'm going to meddle a little bit, and I'm going to be honest. I just don't believe jealousy is functional in a love relationship. I think that's dysfunctional. I think mercy needs to be in a relationship, not control. I think peace needs to be in a relationship, not a manipulative thing, but peace needs to be in that thing. I can keep going. I'm not just talking marriage, but in our relationships. What is the dysfunction is the things that we've conjured up in our mind that have become our guideline, which has nothing to do with truth. Unless we are forgiven by Jesus Christ, we are on our own journey continuing in dysfunction, because the only way to find correction is through Him. Do you believe that? See, parts of my life is in dysfunction, but I've got to find it to become functional. So how do I get there? Let's go to verse 8. The owner of the vine dresser says, we're going to cut it down. Hear this. The world may say, cut that down because you're not bearing fruit. But Jesus is saying, we're not cutting you down just because you're not producing fruit. Here's what He says. Sir, let it be alone this year also. Until I dig around it. We'll stop there for a minute. Until I dig around it. If we want to grow past the disappointment, the disappointee, and the dysfunction, we have to go backwards, not forward. How? Many of us base our life on the leaves rather than the root. When you're looking at the leaves, you're basing your decisions on the leaves and not the root. Many of us live in dysfunction because we're only looking at the leaves rather than looking at the root. Why do we continue to do the things we do? Because it's a root issue. And if we go back to the root and dig up around it, the crazy thing is, He says, let me dig up around this. Why? Because He wanted to put nutrients back in the earth. Because when you start flipping it around and moving it around, new nutrients come into that place and opens itself up so that the water can come and bring saturation to it to redo it. But some of us don't want to dig it. Now, I need you to hear me. If you don't dig up your junk where you are, you will live the rest of your life this way. You have to choose to dig it up. It's not my job to dig your ground up. It's not your job for your spouse to dig your ground up. It's not your kid's job to dig up around you, and it's not your job to dig around the kids' thing. It's your job to train them how, but we have to do this in partnership. So if I start digging my stuff up and stuff starts getting exposed, don't start judging. You hear me? See, if I start digging up the stuff that has kept me dysfunctional, do you know? No. Start digging it up. And if you dig it up, something amazing is going to take place. You're going to stop blaming. You're going to stop blaming people and things that have got you into that place, and you're going to start moving forward. But the last part of this is my favorite part. After you've dug it up, you know what the vine dresser or the manager said? We'll throw manure on it. Some of you are waving at fly as soon as I said that. But in the King James Version in verse 8, it says, we will throw dung on it. Now, check out this illustration. Soon as you start digging it up, manure and dung is going to start coming back at you. But at the point you start building your life on top of the dung, you start winning. Because not one of you can live dung-free because you all smell like dung's happening. How many know exactly what I'm talking about? We all got it. But what's happened is we've been stuck not building on the junk and the manure, and we're building up on it. I'm here to tell you, you can make the choice today to not be disappointed, to not live as the disappointee, to choose to not to live dysfunctional anymore. But junk is still going to happen and manure is still going to pile up even as you're doing things right, because that's just life. And if you could get past that and build on that, you're going to be a healthy person, because junk happens. And as long as junk happens, this week, Marie, when you go to the doctors, Sharon, when you go back for a CAT scan, whatever dung is thrown back that way, you're building up on it. Brett, whatever report this week, we're building up on it. Because you can't believe in the dung, because God is the one that builds it back up. I think the best is yet to come.
Thanks for listening to the teaching of Reliance Community Church of Upland, California. To discover more about us or to contact us, visit our website at www.reliance-cc.org, or you may also email us at info@reliance-cc.org, or call us at 909-294-6324. You may also write us at P.O. Box 966, Upland, California, 91785. We believe you are blessed, and we hope we've helped you deepen your relationship with the living hope, Jesus Christ.